Here we are. Welcome everyone. This is Michael from the Marks Group Live. Excited to be here today teaching, today is reports and dashboards to you live and in person. Today I'm going to be covering the following subjects in our reports and dashboards class. We're going to be looking at out-of-the-box differences between reports and dashboards. We're going to be looking at some out-of-the-box reports and dashboard components. We're going to create a new dashboard. We're going to create an analytics tab to manage reports and dashboards permissions. We're going to create, run, and export a custom report. And we're going to look at how reports and dashboards can help you manage your workload. We'll spend about 45 to 60 minutes going over the classwork, opening the last 45 to 60 minutes for chat discussion, where I can answer any of the questions that you may provide on the chat window that's probably somewhere around there on the right-hand side of your screen. If you're viewing this on a mobile device, there should be a chat window available there as well, where I ask you to please place all your questions during our class today. By the way, that chat window, actually, you know what? I don't need this anymore. Our Facebook login used to be a problem. We fixed that. The chat window will close a few minutes after class, but I encourage you to continue asking questions for clarity on our main web page, where you'll see a chat option on every page. It looks like that. Just mention that you're asking a question regarding a class topic, and one of our trainers will be happy to help you out. If you're having resolution or speed issues, down in the lower right corner of your video window, you'll see a couple of buttons that look like that. The one on the right turns your video into a full screen experience, and the cog or the gear lets you adjust your video size. We recommend leaving that on automatic, but if you want, you can change the size of your screen to suit your internet speed or your working needs. Feel free to download and follow along with our class documentation. While this is not a manual, it is a nice way to follow along, as well as using this for reference after the class. You can scroll down the screen a little bit just below this window, and you should see that download link. So let's get to it. As I go through our class today, remember to use the chat window to ask any questions. And one last bit of advice before we get started. Your screen may not look exactly like mine. If that is the case, as they say, don't panic. Depending on which version of you're using and depending on how yours is configured, there may be some cosmetic differences between what I'm doing and what you might see on your own screen. These are only cosmetic differences, and the work that I'm doing today should be applicable to most versions of Zoho. That said, you may need some level of administrative access to do everything that I'll be demonstrating today. That depends a bit on how your organization or you have configured Zoho. By default, a regular Zoho user does have these permissions, but not all organizations leave things that way. Some choose to lock down Zoho to limit users to certain types of activities. So here we go. Here's our screen, and we're going to start looking for our reports and our reports. If you don't see reports or activities up here in the Zoho control bar, you'll find them under the ellipsis there, where you can simply type the first few letters and find whatever module you're looking for. For example, if I'm looking for the analytics module, I can read through here, and there it is. Or I can type in the little search bar there, analytics, and there it is. And what Zoho will do is Zoho will put the most recently used module, unless it's one of these modules up here, Zoho will put the most recently used module here, just before the ellipsis. Let me pull up a screen here. There we go. Here's some essential terminology that we're going to be working on today. We're going to be in the Analytics module and in the Analytics tab, which is where the dashboards are configured. We'll be adding charts and other components to these dashboards. Let me go back one level here. We're going to be adding charts and other components to these dashboards. If you haven't experienced the power and flexibility of this kind of CRM, I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised by how much insight you can extract from the tables and lists of information that you already have. Again, depending on how your Zoho instance is set up, let me just go to reports right away here. Depending on how your Zoho instance is set up, you might see a different set of dashboards here on the left. Actually, let me go to analytics. There we go. You may see a different set of dashboards here on the left side. But I have to point out that most of the dashboards that you see listed here are pre-configured into the default Zoho setup. And these are actually dashboards. These are not just individual components, these are fully configured dashboards. If it turns out that your system administrator has deleted these starting dashboards, don't worry. All of the individual components that make up each dashboard are still available to you. Think of this as a kind of information construction set. Now, before we start building our own dashboards, I would like to take a look at the distinction between reports, dashboards, components, and charts. Let's go here. All right. A component is like a widget. It's a single box inside the dashboard, and it typically tells you about one item or statistic of interest. A common way to display that item or statistic is through a chart, a list, or a table. When you have a bunch of components on the same screen, you have what Zoho refers to as a dashboard. Like your car's dashboard or your motorcycle's dashboard, it gives you a high-level view of how your organization is running. So a dashboard is a collection of components. By contrast, a report is like popping the hood on a vehicle and plugging in an analytics program, an analytics diagnostic system to look very specifically at certain functions of what your engine is doing. So a dashboard typically is a high-level view, and a report gives you more depth and more detail, typically. Let's go back here. All right. So reports show you very detailed, granular views of your data. For example, let's go to a report. And what I can do here is I can look at, say, converted leads. That one's right up near the top. We can see individual leads that were converted into contacts and accounts. I can see detailed information about each conversion in this table view, and I can export this information for external records or for processing. We're going to take a look more at those export functions in a few moments. So here we have a detailed view of our lead conversion. And of course, I can filter this out, and I can say only show me certain types of leads, so I can take my existing report and refine it even further. Here's a key issue. Every time I run a specific report, let's say converted leads, every time I run this report, it will refresh the data. If you don't run the report or reload the data, then you'll see an updated view. If you don't run the report or reload the data, you won't see an updated view of the data. So in order to make sure that you're looking at the most recent information, you need to refresh your view of the table. Here's why it's important. Let's see where we have this. Let me go here. No, let me not go there. Let's go to my PowerPoint. There I am. All right. No, okay, I don't have that slide, sorry. So a report doesn't update itself in real time. You have to click the reload button or switch out and back in to rerun the report and pull updated information. So let's say that you're in charge of business development, 4 people are working under you in your team, and you've been doing very well, and you think that you're going to go to a meeting. Let's say you go to a meeting and you look at your, if you haven't refreshed your screen, after you come back from your meeting, you might see that the same number of leads have been converted or the same number of deals have been struck. And this is very upsetting to you because maybe you've been at a meeting for hours and it looks like nothing has happened, except that the report has to be refreshed in order for you to see an updated view of the data. All right, let's go to analytics and our dashboard. So remember, you have to refresh your window to see most recent information. So dashboards don't update in real time either, unless you explicitly refresh or reload them. There are 2 ways to do this. First, off to the right, near, let's see, up here, I can refresh all components there. So that simply gives me a different, that refreshes all the components on the current dashboard. And I can also go to each individual component in my dashboard, and under the ellipsis, this isn't letting me refresh. That's interesting. Oh, I'm sorry, it's off to the left, sorry. Immediately to the right of the name of the component, I've got that little refresh icon. Every single component in the dashboard has that. We'll get back to what the ellipsis on the right does in a little moment, later on in this session. And of course, if we want to refresh all of our components, up in the top right corner, upper right corner, click to refresh all components. So while a dashboard may contain individual tables and individual numbers, such as, let's say, my sales funnel here is a good one. There's another sales funnel, pipeline by stage, so I can see where we are in our process. Actually, that should be by stage, good. A dashboard will typically comprise of components that show a graphical view of the data in your CRM. So nearly all of these dashboards that you see here are out-of-the-box dashboards. That means Zoho has already set them up for you. The only effort is to use your CRM and understand the result. As I've said many times in sessions before, if you've done a session with me, you'll know that this is something I say often. The more data you put into your CRM, the more value you will get out of it, particularly when you start running things like analytics, dashboards, and reports. Let's see, organizational overview, lead analytics. These are different types of dashboards that you can see. So I can actually look at a whole collection that has already been created by Zoho of my organizational overview. I can look at lead analytics. I can look at deal insights. Now, it's worth noting that under lead analytics, no data available means that this is what it means is that there isn't data that Zoho can analyze. So there are no leads today. And the reason there are no leads today is because this is a training version of our CRM that is not actually live. So off here on the left again, we have deal insights. This is a set of components that look at our deals. Activity statistics, we have 75 open tasks and 53 overdue tasks. Yes, this is clearly a training CRM, and we would hope that there probably wouldn't be that many overdue tasks in a live functioning organization, unless it were very, very large. I do strongly encourage you to spend time with each of these dashboards, grasping the information that Zoho is showing you, and perhaps more importantly, figuring out what you and your organization can do to turn these insights into realities or into real business activities. One key note, though, depending on how your organization has configured your Zoho instance, a dashboard might show you just some of your organization's data or all of it. If you're an administrative user, you can probably look at all of the data within your organization, whereas for non-administrative users, it's possible that you might only see your dashboard that is related to your activities or your department's activities. If you have any questions about this, you can contact us via email, or you can drop me a question in the chat window, which I am monitoring on a regular basis. So if you have any questions or comments, please do enter them into the chat window that you probably see on your right side of your screen. So, big takeaway right now, let's create a dashboard. Let's make our own dashboard. I'm going to go to all dashboards, and let's see. All right. I'm going to create a new dashboard called My New Leads Dashboard. Now I can do this, and basically I can click on the plus sign here to create a dashboard, or I think I can also do it over here. No, I don't actually see a dashboard there. All right, so there's only one place to create a dashboard, and that's up here, off on the left side of the screen, to the right of the word create, to the right of the word dashboard. Now, if you're already familiar with Zoho, you might expect to see the plus sign for a dashboard there, but in fact, it's here. It was here beside the word dashboard up the left side of the control bar. Let's see. I'm going to first create a name, MF New Lead Dashboard. I always prefix my names with my initials so that it's easy for my fellow trainers to see that this is a dashboard I've created, and I know later on if I need to delete it, I know that it's someone that I've created instead of something that one of my colleagues has created. You may find this useful in your own organization as well, in terms of making sure that if you have multiple users or multiple administrators in the system, just having the initials there helps sort things out. So, apart from the name, which we just set, one of the first things we should probably set is the permission. Right here it says this is locked and it's available only to me. This is a question of who's allowed to use this dashboard. The default setting is only me. I can click on it and say this should be accessible to all users, or I can say show me a custom screen where I can specify users. I would get a drop-down list here. I can specify roles. So I can say the sales manager or a salesperson. I can do it by roles. I can select roles and subordinates, which is really cool. So I can say the head of marketing and all the people who are subordinates to the head of marketing, or I can also select functional groups. Very powerful way to set permissions here. I'm going to cancel out of that for now, I think. If you're not sure how to set this, we recommend you leave it in one of the two easy permission settings. So that would be either only me or all users. Depending on your business and your colleagues, you probably will know what to do. If the content of the dashboard is somehow privileged or it involves highly sensitive company data, set the permissions to only me. If it's some material that everybody is allowed to know or should know, set it to all users. One of the interesting features of dashboards is that even if we set the permission to only me, it's possible to filter the data so that each user only sees the information that is pertinent to that user. We'll get into more detail on this later in the class. For now, I'm going to set this to all users. And then I'm going to click on the Save button off to the right, because we should probably all be in the habit of saving our work as we go along. Now, we'll start to look at what we might want to put into this dashboard. Here I'm prompted with this Add Component button here. Now, if we look to the left of the main dashboard checkerboard, let's see, actually, let's say pick from gallery here. There we go. So, off on the left of the gallery, we have organizational overview. These are different sets of components. So these things already exist. They've already been created. All you have to do is drop them in place, and Zoho will start to pull data from its different tables and aggregate that data into one of these components. So think of this in terms of plugging a meter into an existing circuit. So here are my five different types of components. I have organizational overview components. I can scroll through that list. I have lead analytics, deal insights, activity statistics, and marketing metrics. If you've been in business for a while, your mind is probably already bubbling with ideas for each of these component types. If you're just getting started with Zoho and dashboards in general, we suggest you start by picking a component from the gallery. So we'll click on that button and we'll see a scrolling screen of organizational overview components. I haven't counted them all, but there are dozens of different components, each one of which gives you insight into a part of your business. It's a really good idea to cruise through all these components because Zoho created them for a reason. That is, they're useful. Speaking as an entrepreneur, I really suggest that you revisit this process every few months, because a component that didn't make much sense or seemed irrelevant to you earlier in the life of your business might start to make sense at a later time. There's enough depth and power in the Zoho platform that it can grow with your business needs. Revisiting the components here might give you some fresh ideas of how Zoho can power your business as it grows and as you grow in your interest and ability to analyze your business results. Now we're creating a dashboard that's focusing on leads. So I'll go to the lead analytics section and we'll see what Zoho has to offer here. Looking through these components, you should be getting an idea of what might be useful in your organization. However, I should also point out, perhaps obviously, that these numbers that you see are not live numbers. They're for illustration only. We don't actually have 4,096 leads in our organization, as lovely as that might be. So let's go to untouched leads by owner. Let's see where we have that. Top lead owners, untouched leads by owners. There we go. We're going to mess with this so that you can see how easy it is to make a default component and modify it to suit your needs. I'm going to start by modifying the name. I'm setting up this dashboard so it's only visible to staff member who's logged into Zoho. So I'll change this to my untouched leads. Actually, let's go with MF untouched leads. Now we're going to leave the second and third. I'm going to leave the second and third chart parameters untouched here, although they show you what can be that you can start with one kind of component and pretty much thoroughly change it to something completely different. I'm going to skip to the fourth one, the fourth parameter here, grouping. Let's take a quick scroll through this. You can see that there are lots of options here. I can group this by the owner of the lead, the source of the lead status, the number of employees, the number of chats, the phone number, the score, the rating, and so on. I have lots of options here. Depending on your business, you may find that grouping untouched leads by city is helpful. Or maybe the title of your contact on an organization. For example, if most of your untouched leads happen to be a certain role within an organization, maybe that's something you can look at. There are lots of ways to visualize the data, and you may find yourself building lots of dashboards just for an opportunity to see more things in more ways. Visualizing your data is great. Tables of numbers, also great. Visualizations at times helps us to understand information more thoroughly or more quickly. Let's see. I'm going to leave it exactly as it is. I'm going to say that the last activity time, actually I'm going to leave the that filter exactly as it is. I'm going to save this. This is not an entirely helpful graph. This is not a reason to panic, however, because we're going to edit our component so it's more helpful for our business. We edit our component by clicking in the upper right corner, and we click on Edit. There we go. So there are other neat functions. Actually, let me just come back to that for a moment. There are some other neat functions here. I can delete this component. I can print it. I can add it to my home screen. I can embed the URL somewhere else, or I can add this as a favorite component. Right now, I'm just going to edit. Let's pick another grouping. Instead of by lead owner, because all of the owners, because there is only one owner for all leads in this organization. In fact, this is our training Zoho instance. So you can see that the TMG Live Admin has done all of the lead creation, and all of the untouched leads are owned by the TMG Live Admin. That makes sense. Let's pick another grouping. If you don't want to group, if you don't want to scroll through this list, you can type the first two letters. Let's go to lead status. There we go. Just type the first few letters and I get what I'm looking for. I'm going to leave the filter again exactly as it is because we're going to be unhappy, and then I'll show you what we're going to do about it. Okay, so we still have two leads that are grouped by lead status, and we're still unhappy, so let's go edit this one more time. That graph doesn't look impressive because it's something that we've done in setting up the graph that's limiting what we see. Let's go back to it again. When I hover over it, we see some details coming into sight. This is telling me that I have only 2 records here. So let's think about what we asked for. We asked for, let's go to edit. We asked for a graph of the lead status where the last activity time is empty. In other words, these are leads that nobody has touched since they were brought into the system. These would be leads that we should either purge, since we're not doing anything with them, or mark for follow-up if we think they're worthwhile. But this graph is telling me I only have 2 such records. What if I want to see a graph of the lead status for all leads? Let me remove that criterion and save the graph. When I save this, now I see something useful. I have all these bars that tell me how many of my leads fall into which category. So these are now untouched leads, but they fall into different categories. The point of this demonstration is to show how we can take an out-of-the-box component and change it up to show us something useful about our business. Let's add another component. Let's add a component. We'll now see that up in the upper right corner. where we often see the ability to add components. Once again, I have a chart. I can do a comparison, a target meter, a KPI, an anomaly detector, and a funnel. I'm going to pick from the gallery again. We'll stay in the lead analytics area, and this time let's go for a sales funnel. Scroll there. All right. Leads, lead sources, lead owners, untouched leads, junk leads. There's our sales funnel. We'll leave the name as it is, except that I will add prepend MF to that if I'm able to type. There we go. Now we need to tell this graph what each stage of our funnel is called and what information it should draw from. Remember, defaults are good. They're a great starting point, and we should use them generally until they stop working for you, at which time you'll probably have a much better idea of how you want your components to behave. Here's a case in point. Our first stage, leads created, specifies that will show us all the leads created this year. It is, at the time of this lesson, it is the 3rd week of January. We might not actually have an awful lot of leads created thus far. Instead, let me click on that. We'll say count of leads created time is, let's say, leads, let's see, duration created time is the last 180 days. I click on Done to register my change there. Now I can't do anything with those buttons. They're showing up, but it's not going to help me much. I need to click on Done here to finish that bit of editing. Now a few minutes ago I mentioned that we can limit or filter components so that it only shows data related to the person who is logged in and viewing that particular dashboard. So I can filter my first stage to show that the lead owner is only the logged in user. Let me do that right now. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to create another filter. The filter will say, let's say lead owner is the logged in user. Now, this dashboard component will actually show a different funnel depending on who's logged in. So depending on who's logged in, you're going to see a different funnel because it's going to start with the leads created in the last 180 days according to whichever user happens to be logged in. This is great for me to, if I'm the lead owner, it's great for me to see my own leads and how my sales funnel is working. Or if I'm the head of an organization, or if I'm in charge of lead conversion, this lets me see what Alice and Bill and Carl and Dan are all doing with their leads. So if I could also specify a name here, meaning that anybody using this dashboard would see that particular person's results. So this way, if I'm a manager and I plot everybody's results side by side, I can see how each member of my team is performing. So I might have a dashboard that shows me nothing but conversion charts, one chart for each member of the team. Now in this case, because we've already filtered the contacts as being all the leads belonging to the logged in user, we could add a filter, another filter, but this depends on your organization. If the person who created the lead sticks with that lead after the lead has been converted, then you might want to apply a filter here. For the time being, we'll leave it as it is. The third stage here, customers. It's called customers, but that's inconsistent with other language in Zoho, where we usually talk about deals that are closed or won. Of course, this depends on your business. Maybe you want to leave it as customers. In our case, I'm going to stick with Zoho's standard terminology and change the name of this stage to deals and click on done. Actually, this specifies deals stage is closed or won. So I'm going to change that to deals won. I can add, let's see, what this does is we're going to see a sales funnel now that shows us only the deals where the viewer's leads are shown as they make the transition from lead creation to deal winning. I can add more stages if I want. I can further specify aspects of my funnel. You know your business, you know how it operates, so you'll know how you want this funnel to behave, how you want it to be defined. Let's save this and see what it looks like. It's okay, but I'm not liking the geometry. I have to scroll across to get this to work. So I think I'm going to reorder my geometry here. To the right of Add Component, up here in the upper right corner of your screen, there's an ellipsis. I can view in full screen, I can delete this dashboard, or I can reorder it, and that's what I'm going to choose. Now I can drag this. You see that I have the four-way arrow there. I can drag this in place, and I can drag it all the way across. And when I'm done, of course, I save my work. Let's not forget to save it. Now what I've got is I have a dashboard that has my untouched leads down below, and above it, I have my sales funnel. And the sales funnel is full width of the screen. Now, I can actually start to read what my business is doing. It's not a matter of just gut instinct here. I can look at business results and read this graph. Actually, you know what? I'm going to make that a little bit higher. I'm going to make it a little bit taller. I'm going to click on it, and drag the window down. I'm going to drag it down even more. You'll notice that Zoho pushes down other modules to make room for whatever you're clicking on. So now I can read this a little bit. My sales funnel goes from lead created, converted to contact, converted to deals won. Of course, I can take this through multiple stages by adding stages to my funnel, so I can gain more insight. Here, I have 54 leads that were created, 21 were converted to contacts, and 10 were converted to deals. This is, of course, again, a fictional setup. This is based on data that we've put into our Zoho training CRM. In your business, you may decide that a 18% conversion rate is great, or it may be a good reason to get fired. You'll know that better than we'll know this. This is just this is data that's related to fictional situations that we set up in our Zoho instance. So 15 leads were created that had no source. 3 leads were created from employee referrals. 6 came from trade shows. Let's look at this conversion to contacts. At every stage, it's showing me a percentage. So on average, 40% of my leads are converted into contacts, and then 47% of my contacts are converted to winning deals. And we can also see that the conversion rate, the overall conversion rate for external referrals is really good, and the conversion rate for seminar partners is 0. I've said it before, the more data you put into your CRM, the better a tool it becomes to help you plan your business and understand what in your business is working. All right, let's add a heat map. Let's save that. let me add a heat map. So that's a new component. I'm going to go here again, pick from gallery. I'm going to stay in lead analytics, and here are heat maps. Let's see. We have lead generation by source, lead status by owner, monthly lead creation by owner. So those are 3 of the heat maps that we've got there. I'm going to click on the, let's see. Let's go for the first one. Lead generation by source. I'm going to select the first one, click the save button, and start with the defaults to see what happens. All right. Lead generation by source. Once again, we have a squished graph here. So I'm going to grab it by the ellipsis. I'm going to edit this. Oopsie, sorry. I'm going to reorder this. There's my ellipsis. I'm going to reorder this. I'm going to move this to the top. And I'm going to stretch it again to full width. Aha! This is helpful. Let me scroll down a little bit, push that down so I don't have to scroll vertically. And I think that's all the space I need. All right. And then I save my work. Now we can see what this looks like. December, well, I had five leads that came from trade shows in December, and 1 lead that came that had no source whatsoever. So I had 6 in December. October looks like it has activity. There's 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in October. Now this is not aggregating, but this gives you a heat map. So this gives you a sense of what's happening in your business. Learning to read these graphs is a skill, and it's probably one that you will find very useful to you. Let's see what we can do by making a tiny change. Let's see. Let's tell Zoho that we'd like to see the sum of annual revenue based on when the lead was created. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to edit it. I'm going to specify that I want these results. Let's see. I want to filter, and let's see. Created by the logged in user. So I won't only want to see results, or the person who's looking at this will see results that are related to that specific person. And I want to do the sum of, say, annual revenue. All right. So save that. Now, what we can see is that the annual revenues of the leads that so when we create a lead, we indicate the annual revenue for the organization that the lead represents. This gives you an idea of, perhaps, for your business, how important a lead is. So a lead that comes in from an organization that has, let's say, $190,000 in annual revenue, that might not be as valuable to you as a lead that comes from an organization with $5 million in annual revenue. It depends on what you're selling. It depends on the probability of making the sale and what the organization is buying. But this could still be a useful indicator to you. All right. Let me save. Oh, I've already saved that. Let's see what else I've got here. Right. You might notice also that these cells are clickable. If I click on this cell, it takes me to the 2 organizations that are represented in that cell. There's the Hagedorn organization and the Rachel Sosha. Sorry, that's the lead generation. That's the source of the lead. That source is worth, Rachel Socha brought us a lead, and the lead's annual revenue is worth $5 million. So I can always click on these and get a highlight of that particular cell. And this is actually created in a new tab. So I'm going to click on the delete tab. This is a powerful drill down function. I can drill down into almost any of these. Let's see what I can drill into here. I scroll my page down a little bit. There. Whenever the cursor turns into a hand, I can drill down into information there. Here, I'm looking at untouched leads. Those leads were untouched, where the lead status was empty. Okay. So whenever I click on one of these and drill down, Zoho opens a window and it gives me the title up here. Untouched leads where lead status is contacted, and so on. In terms of being a business management tool, Zoho really delivers here. To make sure you didn't lose your place on the original dashboard, of course, Zoho opens up your drill down in a new tab so it's easy to return to your Zoho tab. You can even leave those tabs open. And I can't demonstrate this right now on this particular screen, but you could have 5 or 6 of these individual windows open running side by side. All right. Finally, I can take any of these components and add them to my home page. So I can click on that, and I can click on Add to Home. Now MF Untouched Leads should be in my home page. So let me click on Home. Scroll down. And there's my MF Untouched Leads. So it's a lovely shortcut. Let's see. So this is a lovely shortcut for the time when you've crafted a really good component. Just add it to your home page. You can also add any component. Let me go back to my analytics. Let me grab a component. And I can say, make this a favorite. Now let's see what favorites I've currently got. I have these components in my favorites. I'm going to add deals. Let's see, I'm going to add the one that I just created. So let's see, I was in my lead analytics area. Oh, wait, no, new lead dashboard, that's where I was. Okay, I can scroll down, I can say add that to favorites. And now it has been favorited, and you'll see MF Untouched Leads here in the favorites area. MF Untouched Leads is now in my favorites area. So by adding your favorite leads, or sorry, your favorite components into the favorites area, it's like having a really good album in your individual dashboards, but then having a great mixtape of your favorites. If you've noticed, by the way, sometimes the colors here change. If I reload my sales funnel, sometimes the colors change. They do. I think this is a feature. So that's an overview of the dashboard. Let's take a quick look at reports here. You'll find that reports either toward the middle of the Zoho control bar, or you'll find it here. There's reports. All right. Almost all of these reports are out of the box. There's probably one or something very close to one that you can use right away to accomplish almost any conceivable business task you can throw at it. If there isn't, it's probably because you've been working with Zoho or another CRM for a long time and you know what kind of information you already like to see. And I can promise that Zoho is almost certainly likely to be able to create whatever report you want. Toward the bottom, you'll see off here on the off on the other right, the left here, all reports, favorite reports, reports that we've recently run, reports that I've created, or one of my other trainers has created, and then reports that are shared and scheduled. These are all powerful features, but here we have specific types of reports. So these are categories of reports down here. Of note, there's also the scheduled reports here. This is worthy of its own really big lesson or two. We'll schedule a report ourselves toward the end of this class. Just browsing through here, even looking at the lead reports, leads by industry, today's leads, pipeline reports. Let's see, where's the deal report? Oh, the deal report. The pipeline report. It's nice. It's interesting. It tells us what deals are in which parts of a pipeline. Deals that are in the qualification stage, and then different numbers of deals that are at various stages. The needs analysis, value proposition, and so on. We can either we can mess with any of these. Let's go back to pipeline by stage. I can edit this, but before I edit it, I should probably duplicate it. Duplicating is a very, very good idea before you mess with it with a report. That way, if you mess it up, you can simply trash your flawed work, duplicate a new one, and start over again. We can search for a specific report if we know what we're looking for. I'm actually going to cancel out of here. I can look for a specific report here. If I look for only reports that have the word pipe in them, that's what I would get. I could type that word in there. All right. Invoices by status. Let's go to all reports and look for invoices. There we go. Invoices by status. If your business is like mine, chasing invoices is just part of your working day. But maybe there are lots and lots of them, and you want to filter them. You only want to chase invoices that are above a certain amount. You can easily modify that report. You can say, show me only invoices that represent a deal or an amount over a certain level or under a certain level. Let's go back to pipeline by stage. I'll find it quickly here. All right. I'm going to duplicate this again. There we go. So, and I'm going to make this a regular report. Report type. I'm going to leave this as a summary report, but I could also create a table and a matrix report. And I'm going to give this a name. I'm going to call this MF pipeline by stage. I could enter a longer description here. That's a good idea. Then we go to report representation. These are the columns that we're going to be looking at. The defaults here are all the columns that were in the report that we've just duplicated. We see that there are lots of available columns. In this particular report, it's only going to let us choose columns from the deals table or the deals module or the account module. So let's add the stage. Let's see, the deal stage. I'm going to click on that and add that. The state, I'm going to clear that by clicking the X there. Let's go for the state of the deal. So I've got stage and state. Stage and state. Let's see. And we'll leave the deal name, closing date, and probability. One thing that I can do, though, is I can change the order from left to right of the columns by going top to bottom in the selected columns area. So I'm going to go with stage first, then state, deal name, closing date, probability. Let's leave that as it is. There's also a filter section that we can modify. I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Let's go back to report representation. Sorry, there's groupings, right. So we're going to group these. I'm going to summarize these first by stage and then by the billing state. And I can set the order here. So I have 3 different levels of summarization, grouping or subgrouping these. If we go to columns to total, we have 4 options here. We have sum, average, lowest value, and largest value. The most common one that we have is sum. And let's say the deals amount, that is the amount that makes sense for us at this for this particular report. And I'm going to average the annual revenue. So I'm going to average, there we go. So there's also a filter section down here. See, up here. There are filters. We're going to leave this report unfiltered for the time being. I'm going to save this, and we'll see the results. We see the information that is subtotaled within groups of rows that we specify, and then in grand totals at the bottom of the table. So first we have the stage. This is telling me how many deals are in the qualification stage, and it's sorting these according to the billing state. So here we have no state for those 2. These 6 deals, the state is in Colorado. I don't know why PA is there. Oh, the billing state is separate from the state. That's interesting. So the state of the organization is actually Pennsylvania, but the billing state for that deal is Colorado. What I can do is, if I think I've made a mistake there, I can select this deal. Zoho will open up a new tab, and somewhere in this test deal, I specified Pennsylvania as a state. So I should be able to scroll through this. There we go. There's the state. So what I can do is I can, no, it's not letting me. Let me just go back one level here. There's my test deal. That's the one I just had. And I specified the state of Pennsylvania. What I would like to do is, I would like to, oops, let me try this again. Test deal, oh, it's locked. I can't change it. All right. So I'm going to have to leave that as Pennsylvania. So let me go back to my funnel. So I'm going to have to leave that as Pennsylvania for the time being. I've got 2 deals in New Jersey, and I've got 1 other deal in Pennsylvania that are at the qualification stage. So I'm getting the subtotals here. The annual revenue, that's not my revenue, that's the revenue of the organization with which we're dealing. And the total amount here, the amount of the deal is here, the annual revenue of the organization is there. So I have $500,000 in deals that are at different stages. 390,000 of which is at the qualification stage, and then different amounts as we go through the different stages. There's a lot of information here. It may be incomprehensible at first, but it probably isn't. If you're an entrepreneur and you understand and you're working in terms of sales funnels, this information is going to be entirely readable to you. And depending on how you've configured the graph or the chart, you can modify this so that it works more in the way that you want it to work. It does take time to learn how to read complex tables like this. There's also a limit in terms of the complexity that is useful to you. So let's go on. Let's see if we can create a chart out of this. Let's create a pie chart that shows us this information. And I don't know where my chart has gone. Oh, wait, sorry. Where's my chart? Oh, there it is. The chart has appeared up at the top. This shows me the different stages that I have for each, the number of deals at each stage, or the value of deals at each stage. So I have $500,000 there. They're in the proposal and price quote stage, and I have different deals at different stages here. I can edit this graph. I can drill down to specific wedges of the pie chart. I could go to chart options. I can change the different axes. I can spend an obscene amount of time messing with different parts of this graphic. I suggest you start with defaults, start messing with changes as opportunity permits. All right. One last trick. I want to go back to reports. We see that our new report, MF pipeline by stage. I ran that report 4 minutes ago. It's right up there at the top. One last trick today, scheduling a report to run automatically. So I can go to scheduled reports and I can say, give me a new report scheduler. Up here in the right corner, that's where we often have our ability to create a new thing that we happen to be in. So we're in scheduled reports. Let's make a new one. I can choose which report, and I'll just do I'll just do the one I just did, recent reports. I can choose the format for the data to be exported. If people want to mess with it further, send them an Excel spreadsheet. If they want to import it into something more powerful than Excel, CSV is a standard format, or PDF if you want to, if you're doing a report for people to read. I can specify when the report should be sent, so the date and the time, and I might say repeat this report every week for the next 10 weeks. I can specify who should receive the report, and I can search through all the users in my Zoho CRM. I can specify that certain groups, members of certain groups should receive it, roles, and of course roles and subordinates. Right now I'll say just one person should receive it. And what's great here is I also have additional recipients. So I can say Friesen at marksgrouplive.com. Actually, I think I'm marksgroup.net. So I can specify people that aren't even in my Zoho system. And then I hit save or schedule. There we go. And now I see that there's a report that's going to go out on a weekly basis and scheduled by me. And I can again click on that and look at the report that gets scheduled. This is powerful functionality and it's provided for you right out of the box. One last bit of user friendliness. We can reorder reports if we like. Let's go to favorite reports. Actually, there we go. I can go to all reports. Let's go to deal reports, for example. If I click on the gear here, I can reorder these reports. So if I never have to deal with invoice reports, I can pull that down. If I often have to deal with quote reports, I can move that up. So I can reorder this sequence of folders for reports. We very, very strongly suggest that although it's possible to hide a folder of reports, you not do this until at least you know how to restore them, which is in another lesson. All right, there we have reports, dashboards, and components. Let's go back to here. And let's review our 6 big takeaways today. We got 6, not our usual 5, not 4, not 3. We looked at key differences between reports and dashboards. We looked at some out-of-the-box dashboards and reports components. We looked at how to create a new dashboard, how incredibly easy that is. We looked at the Analytics tab, so we learned how to manage reports and dashboard permissions. We created, ran, and exported a custom report. And finally, we looked at how reports and dashboards can help you manage your workload. We looked at how we can schedule a report, and we looked at how using reports and dashboards can give you a lot of insight into how your business is running and what sorts of things you might need to take a closer look at. Reports and dashboards are really powerful diagnostic tools, and using them allows you to start to pull data out of your CRM, not just using your CRM to store information, to store tasks, but also to report on what your business is actually doing. All right, I do not see any questions right now in the chat area. If you do have a question, please do drop it into the chat area or send it to me via email. Please use the on-screen chat if you have more questions that I can answer. I'll wait for a minute or two here and make sure that everybody has a chance either to type a question into the chat or to send a question via email.